and welcome to the Anime Explorations podcast. My name is Alex.
I'm Tora.
I'm David.
And we are a monthly anime book club podcast where we watch a anime series or film and then talk about it. But before we kick things off, we talk about what's currently happening in the anime world and what shows we're currently watching. And since we have a new season kicking off, and there's some news stories related to that season, we'll start off with that. So, before we talk about what we're watching, let's talk about the issue with Crunchyroll subtitles with the start of the season. So we're recording this after this, like at the tail end of like the second week of the anime fall anime season, and the subtitles on Crunchyroll this season have been, at least for the first episodes for a lot of shows, or the first week of a lot of shows, they've been not good.
They've been wonk.
Like some of the longer ongoing shows have generally had more like consistent quality of subtitles with past seasons, but like some of the shows, it's been, the way I describe it is like what I noticed initially with some of these shows was the typeface. Even though like normally I don't pay a lot of attention to typefaces and that sort of thing, but I noticed here the font was different for some of these shows. Like they weren't using a drop shadow for the text, and oftentimes the lines on the letters were narrower than they were normally. And I was not the only person who noticed this. Also, like irregular between shows, though apparently some of that depends on can be determined by the studio who provide, or the company who provided the show to Crunchyroll. Sometimes they have insistence they'll do their own subtitles. Let's Play, I believe, did that. But anyway, for the others, like the fonts were narrower, the outlining was narrower, and lots of other people noticed this. And there was a post that went up on Twitter, which had no references to their sources, from which was claiming that a subtitling software from an Israeli company that also used AI was being used.
That got cross-posted to other platforms real quick because I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah, but like everything linked back to this one Twitter post, which
couldn't find real sources.
Yeah, which is why I had some skepticism about that, because the Twitter algorithm, like, Twitter's a hell site anyway, putting outside how its algorithm works. But if you want to get seen on Twitter these days, you have to you need to write something that pisses a lot of people off. And man, if you want to piss off anime fans right now, the two words you want to use are AI and Israel.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, if this was actually a thing, eventually somebody working on subtitling for Crunchyroll would leak to someone. Maybe someone in the press like ANN, or there's a columnist goes by the name of there's a blog called Anime by the Numbers, or it's rather a Substack newsletter, and like somebody would have leaked to him. They would have just created a burner account on some other social media platform and said, yeah, this is what's happening. Someone who worked, or just someone who's just open about working in subtitling and closed captioning, like Mars Girl, Caitlin, I can't pronounce her last name, but first name's Caitlin, would post, say, yes, this is what they're doing for their software. Because it's important to note that Crunchyroll's old software they were using was open source and free. So they would have to be actually paying for this other software, whatever they changed to.
Corporations paying for things? Nah.
Yeah, which is another thing that people like are skeptical about this, because it's like not just corporations paying for things, but also corporations potentially spending like hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars on software licensing, when they could just stick with the free but hard to use software they've already been using. That kind of got people going, hey, hang on. And also they got me going, hang on as well. So Crunchyroll issued a statement to Anime News Network on the 9th. We are recording this on the 11th, so this was 2 days ago, stating, I'm quoting from the statement, "Over the past few days, some users experienced delays in accessing the content they wanted and subtitle issues across certain series. These were caused by internal system problems, not by any change in how we create subtitles, use of new vendors, or AI. These internal issues have now been fully resolved. Quality subtitles are a core part of what makes watching anime on Crunchyroll so special. They collect global fans to the heart of every story, and we take that responsibility seriously. Thank you for your patience. We are committed to continuing to deliver the authenticity, quality, and care that fans deserve." So, I watched a couple shows from this new week so far. Most of the show I'm watching comes out on Mondays and Sunday, or Saturdays and Mondays. But we had an episode drop of this past week, of yesterday, of May I Ask for One Final Thing? Or, am I going to nickname it One Punch Ojo-sama? And that second episode had much better, proper subtitle quality as what we previously expected. But it did still have some other issues, which I think is part of a core larger problem, which came up in a video that Jeff Thu of the Mother's Basement YouTube channel did, where his concern is that Crunchyroll is kind of toning down their subtitles to make it work better for sub-licensing to, for example, Hulu, Netflix, or what have you, other platforms like that. And it definitely reflected that for how it handled some on-screen text in that episode. Because there is a on-screen text gag in that episode. They handled it in a particular way. So it fits with that, but the typeface stuff was generally back to where it's supposed to be. Now, that was a one-off example. I think the big marker here for how it's going to turn out is going to be with the new episode of Digimon Beat Break this evening. Because that was one where the Crunchyroll version had really massive font size. Like, every line of text was sized to make sure that it went from border to border of the screen. Where, no matter how much anyone was actually saying, pretty much. Whereas the Hulu version, which aired about the same time, had a much more reasonably sized font. And also, it's actually like going off of the subtitle preference settings for whatever your smart device is. So that's where that was. So we'll see how that goes.
Anyone who's had graphic design training knows that poor font choices, poor size choices. Oh man, they just grate in your teeth. It's like, ugh. Yeah.
Same with anyone with a technical writing background, because you're like, part of the thing they beat into you technical writing is font choice matters for legibility on whatever different platforms you're on. Ostensibly, your not serifed fonts are easier to read on a print, whereas sans serif works better on a screen. I say it's a little variable, but also that serifed fonts can work if you're trying to do a specific stylistic evocation, if you're doing stuff on screen. For example, see the use of serifed fonts in the Eternals, the MCU movie, for their on-screen text. Anyway. So we're going to see how that goes for the rest of this month, but it looks like they're starting to get things back in line. My suspicion is what actually happened is they got a bunch of new people who they're training up on the new software. And they're doing that combined with trying to simplify the workflow for how they're doing this so that the on-screen text requires less work to adapt for other streaming platforms, because they also have the Crunchyroll, like this season, I think it's like the first big season where they're doing stuff with the Crunchyroll Amazon channel service thing. And that doesn't, and which means you have to do your subtitles to work with Amazon's platform, and Amazon stuff doesn't work with the fancier way that Crunchyroll does subtitles for like on-screen text and that sort of thing. Like if you watch My Dress Up Darling, for example.
Interconnectivity is a lot more difficult than most people think.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, shows we're watching this season. I'm as I meant, so I'm still going with Spy Family season 3, Run Run Half season 2, and the final season of My Hero Academia.
Our favorite show, Campfire Cooking in Another World, is back.
Yes.
So happy.
Yes. I'm also watching. Okay, well, you mentioned Digimon. I'm also watching the May I Ask for One Final Thing, or One Punch Ojo-sama, as we called it.
Alex, that's a good one.
I like it. It's delightful. I just watched the 3rd episode this morning. And I'm also watching the new season of Let This Grieving Soul Retire, which it's not great, but it ticks a few boxes for me.
We watched all the Kaiju number 8.
That was last season.
Yeah.
So I am
nice if there was more.
So I am watching an isekai this season. I am watching My Status as an Assassin Obviously Exceeds the Heroes, which
Yeah.
so
How are you liking it? I've heard about it.
it looks amazing. It is there was the concern I had, like, okay, is this going to potentially be edgelordy? And it's not. Like the first episode is like main character learns that they're the assassin class. They also learn from their stats exceeds the heroes, and he starts kind of using the assassin class to kind of snoop around and go, there's something not quite right about this world that we've been summoned into, and the people who summoned us are not entirely on the up and up in terms of what they're asking us to do and what to be, and trying to figure out what that means. It's like he found a couple allies, and he's been in a couple situations where he theoretically could kill someone in terms of a person, and he hasn't. He's specifically like, and not like I said to the code for myself where I'm not going to kill. It's like he's like it was like where he's like thought about doing it, and he just can't. He has a resistance because he's a person from our world. Like, no, I'm not supposed to kill people. Killing is bad, but I may have to kill someone, and I don't. And it's really well thought out in this regard. And they're like, he's like having conversations with people like, hey, I don't know if I could like kill a person, kind of thing, and that's great.
Many isekais skip, hop, and dance right over any moral implications because the goal is fantasy and escapism. It is nice to see that looked into once in a while.
At this point, I have consumed the media of so many isekais.
David's like an isekai scholar at this point.
Like you can, it's generally pretty easy to tell if an isekai is going to be good or if it's going to be bad, or as someone says, if thought has been put in, or if it's escapist slop. And not that escapist slop isn't enjoyable in its own way, but you can tell when thought has been put in. Like, the biggest question is this person trying to get back to their real world? And if not, why?
Speaking of which, the topic of returning to the real world does come up, and the main character does have an interest in wanting to get himself and ideally the rest of his class back home.
Yeah. Like, from what I've heard, this one sounds like it has thought put into it. Like, the character, you can tell based on their actions what kind of person they were in their previous world. And also, how the new world is affecting them. How does the old world, how do they affect the new world? Like, there's a lot. And like, I will fully admit, some of my favorite isekai are not terribly good. They're just cathartic. They're like, okay, this is so stupid, but by God, I like it. Like, I genuinely adore Trapped in a Dating Sim, The World of Otome Games is Tough for Mobs. It's got a lot of heart in it, but it don't have a lot of thought in it. I think is the best way to put it. And it also has like the overpowered protagonist. And
how that ends up causing him more problems than fixing them.
Yeah, you got through the first, I think, 5.5 books.
I did.
And the first season of the show. Yeah. Okay. But moving on. Other shows you were watching.
Other than that, Digimon Beat Break, which is the first Digimon series I've actually watched.
I missed watching the first episode.
But first episode it is darker than I expected. I expected with the bit and stuff about the thing, okay, this is going to be, I would describe as middle school grade dark. Or like younger middle school grade dark. This is looking like older middle school, early high school grade dark, like childhood friend classmate in coma potentially due to main character's actions, and parents missing, possibly dead, brother very likely also dead.
I do appreciate the way that Digimon is now willing to handle more, darker subjects. I should say the last bit of Digimon media I consumed was Digimon Survive, the pseudo visual novel.
One other note, with this is income inequality and class differentiation, with clear-cut haves and have-nots, also significant part of the story setting by the first episode.
Excellent.
I've always found it interesting how movie and TV for young adults does not always reflect the fact that the novel market for young adults is dark as hell. Some of these properties get taken and run with, the famous ones like the Hunger Games, for example. But for the most part, if you go into a YA bookshelf and you just start picking up synopses and stuff, that shit is dark. And you don't necessarily see that reflected in TV aimed at the same demographic. Because I think a lot of execs are I don't know, guys.
Yeah.
Young adults can handle a lot more than people think.
A classic example of this is, look, I know what you did last summer, classic slash, at this point, fairly classic slasher series. Started as a YA novel by Lois Duncan in the 70s.
Phenomenal writer, Lois Duncan. She's written some dark stuff. I like it.
Yep. So,
she did Daughters of Eve. Anyway.
But yeah, so there's that. And other than that, I mentioned last episode. We recorded this very quickly after we recorded the last episode. So, but we're 3 episodes into Cat's Eye, which is still looking all right. Nice little heist show, with strong Charlie's Angels energy, as to be expected by something from the creator of City Hunter. And first season of Ranma 1/2, or the first season, but the new season of Ranma 1/2 and My Hero Academia have been good. Ranma 1/2, they have brought in Kosen Yugi instead of Sasuke for the supporting for the sort of sidekick character for Kuno, leading into the Cat Fist story. And yeah, I guess as far as news stuff goes, one last bit of news. There's a Kickstarter ongoing. So we've done part of the thing for our August episodes is we do anime that have connections to role-playing games, and where we have a new role-playing game coming out based on an anime that we've previously covered, sort of. There is a new anime tabletop role-playing game coming out based on Ghost in the Shell, specifically Ghost in the Shell Arise, and it's from the publisher of the Cowboy Bebop tabletop role-playing game. And so it looks like, related to much of their past stuff, this is going to be somewhat mechanically close to the Forged in the Dark system. I don't know if you're familiar with that sort of that family of systems.
I have not played any.
Okay, so Forged in the Dark, sort of like powered by the Apocalypse relates to the various games that are sort of spun off of Apocalypse World, like Dungeon World and that sort of thing. Forged in the Dark, it refers to game systems that are spun off of Blades in the Dark, which is itself kind of spun off of the Powered by Apocalypse system, where you have sort of a playbook where you that works sort of like a class for your characters, and the mechanics are more heavily based on fail-forward rolls as opposed to success, a clear-cut success or failure, or like critical success, failure. And I'm not sure how well I think about applying that to Ghost in the Shell, because part of the thing with Forged in the Dark games is they're, as you can imagine by the sort of title of family systems, they are dark and gritty. Like Blades in the Dark is a grimdark role-playing game of heists and crime in a fantasy setting, like a sort of city fantasy setting, not urban fantasy in the sense of like Dresden Files, but urban fantasy in the sense of like the Thieves' World novels and that sort of thing. Big, ugly city with where you could get shanked into back alley at any time, kind of thing.
Everyone's in black and white, and the wind follows them, even inside.
Yeah, and part of the focus for Forged in the Dark, all your characters have goals, and it's all about using what's called clock mechanics. So that's something you can just adapt to any system. It's a really good concept to use, where it's like you have basically sort of a meter you're trying to fill up by doing additional actions that's specific for your character over the course of your game, of the campaign. And once that clock fills up, you've either succeeded at what you're trying to do, or you failed, or maybe somewhere in the middle, and the game master and the players kind of figure out what that means. And once they have completed their goals, then theoretically that character can retire, and the player will end up starting a new character. It is meant to be and there's additional meters like stress and that sort of thing in addition to health, where your character, rather than, in addition to potentially getting killed by taking too much damage, they can also max out their stress and burn out or leave or that sort of thing. And so character churn is meant to be a big part of the game. That works for Cowboy Bebop because, like, with the way that series ends, like, members of the party are leaving. Members of the crew are leaving because they have either completed their goal in some form or another, and sometimes that may end up being synonymous with their death, like Spike, or have found what they're looking for, or that they need to go looking for what they want somewhere else. That sort of thing. That doesn't fit the same way with Ghost in the Shell, I think. But you do have, like, we previously talked about the first movie, like, you do have the Major going off and leaving and doing her own thing, with the puppet master as the kind of a gestalt entity. But Bato is still with Section 9. Everyone else with Section 9 is still at Section 9. You don't have them, like, members of Section 9 dropping in and out as the series goes on.
You know, you could do a really cool thing, though, is that you keep the same character, but they get a completely different body or shell.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they would do that with the full game, but I don't know. Again, I don't know how well, like, in this context, Forged in the Dark specifically would work, like, as opposed to some other system like Fate, for example, or Savage Worlds, or some other role-playing game system that's
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I always kind of imagined I would just skin it over Cyberpunk if I ever wanted to do any Ghost in the Shell stuff.
Yeah,
Cyberpunk or cannot believe I cannot remember the name. It's Cyberpunk, but fantasy.
Shadowrun.
Thank you. I wanted to keep saying Edge Runner, and I'm like, no, that's not it. That's the Cyberpunk thing. No, it's
yeah.
Thank you, Shadowrun. Yeah.
Yeah, like there are other role-playing game systems, other cyberpunk role-playing game systems. There's Interface Zero that's based off of Savage Worlds. There's stuff that's been written for Fate. There's stuff been written based off of D&D 5e. There are options. Like, this is the case where
definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
Like, for specifically how Ghost in the Shell works, Forged in the Dark doesn't quite fit. It's not to get in too far of a tangent, But when like the Dungeons and Dragons SRD 5e SRD mess happened a few years ago, and people were looking for other game systems, like God bless the role-playing game community as a whole, but we love to we love to move from one monoculture to another when it comes to alternatives to Dungeons and Dragons. And when people are saying, "Oh, we need to look for alternatives for Dungeons and Dragons 5e," you had a whole pinch of people saying, "Oh, use Forged in the Dark," and I'm like, Forged in the Dark doesn't necessarily do what people are looking for a zero to hero power fantasy campaign for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Like a bit different. Like, I was going to say there's a lot of resistance in game groups to learning new systems. So if they're already publishing a bunch of Forged in the Dark games, I get why they'd want to continue that for the same audience, even if it doesn't necessarily fit the world so well.
The thing is that, I mean, we've been part of gaming groups for decades now. Just going to say
like
decades.
Forever.
At least, yeah, about... Okay, God, when did I start?
Stop, you're making me feel old.
Okay, but essentially, the fact that people keep wanting to stay with one game system and play it in a style that system is not great for.
Well, a lot of us grew up buying very expensive books, and so it's like once you have the very expensive books, you don't want to have to go buy another set. It's easier now.
I completely understand that. No, I get I've put an investment into it. I don't want that to be for nothing. But it is kind of frustrating when you're playing a game and you can tell everyone's trying to do something that the game system wasn't really built around.
Yeah.
It's also weird for this is me looking like when I was for the August stuff. I've put together a spreadsheet for the listeners home. I put together like a multi-tab spreadsheet for the various like different shows we could potentially be covering over the course of August role-playing game month. And the systems they're related to. And I am well aware that for many of these games, they do not fit this, there have been multiple cases of people trying to do anime role-playing games, and the system not fitting the setting, or with a person who wants to do a role-playing game inspired by a specific system, or a specific anime, and then trying to expand it out to cover some other related anime, and it not working as well. An example I'm going to use here is there is a role-playing game that is based on to do magical girl genre emulation, but it's made using Forged in the Dark. Now, one of the settings portions of the book they use is very clearly inspired by Madoka Magica. That works. That fits 100% with the character churn, with the dark tone, with the idea of character departure or burnout that you get that happens in that in the setting of that show. But then they also try to apply it to, for example, She-Ra, Princess of Power, which I'm like, or are setting inspired by it? Like, no, from what I understand of She-Ra, that doesn't fit in that way. It is still a morally complicated setting, but it doesn't have that same necessary level of character, same level.
Wait,
of
original or the new one?
The new one.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then yeah.
So the new one has a more morally complicated setting, but certainly more than the original, but it doesn't have the same level of character burnout and churn, or character churn as in as what you have in Madoka Magica. But they put it in there because it's a show they're watching, they like it, or I get the sense it's a show they're watching, they like it, and they want to have that option to use a game with that dynamic in the same system without necessarily thinking it out. It's like the opposite problem with the everyone shoving everything into 5th edition problem, except it's everyone shoving everything into Forged in the Dark because that's the new indie hotness. Sometimes when they've done that, it works. Fate is a very good generic system structure setup that actually is very versatile and can be adapted to lots of settings and tones. Forged in the Dark does dark stuff well. It's designed from the jump to handle that particular dark stuff well. Apocalypse World and the Powered by the Apocalypse game, that actually handles a bit of a better range tonally for works, but it's still like it doesn't handle particular types of, say, power fantasy very well in terms of a long curve zero to hero game, for example. So yeah. We're getting into we're turning into a tabletop role-playing game podcast. But
there are many different ways to tell stories.
Yeah,
it depends on your table.
So, but yeah, I'll drop a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes of those who want to check it out. I'm like, if they pull this off, then more power to them. If not, then yep.
Another experiment.
Indeed. Like, more role-playing games being entering into the world is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. The things that work will stick.
Yeah. All right. So, might as well now slip into our horror anime of the month. Mieruko-Chan. Ooh. So,
another pun name.
Yeah, Mieruko-Chan is a anime series that came out in early 2020s. And the premise of the series of the show follows Miko Yotsuya. Nice little teeny pun there. If you're familiar with Japanese historical horror fiction. There's a novel called not novel, but a kabuki play that got turned into films called The Ghost of Yotsuya. And she can see ghosts. And she doesn't want to see ghosts. She'd really rather not be able to see ghosts. She finds them quite creepy, disturbing, and upsetting, and unpleasant. And there's also the possibility that if the ghosts know that she can see them, they might curse her or otherwise do unpleasant things to her. And she'd rather not have that happen. But she keeps still seeing ghosts. It doesn't help that her best friend exudes massive amounts of spiritual energy that attract ghosts. And both horror and comedy ensue. We also have other supporting characters like the slightly less spiritually aware classmate Yuria, who can kind of see ghosts, but not as well as, but nowhere near as well.
The little cute ones, not the big scary ones.
Yeah. And she doesn't quite understand what Miko's going through because Miko's not necessarily trying to play out that, no, she can see the big scary ones. So yeah. So what do you think?
This show is confused. Like I see what they were going for, but there was a definite mismatch, I think, between the studio and the story. The fan service levels are okay. Let me preface this by saying that this kind of like predator gaze shot design can be very effective in horror properties, right? Because it highlights the vulnerability of the main characters. This show, it's not doing that. It's just fan service to be there for the sake of fan service, like apropos of nothing.
You gave it so much more credit at the beginning than I did.
I was like, okay, maybe they're doing a thing where like they're making her seem really vulnerable, like because she's the horror movie protagonist, but like
and then it was like, yeah, no. But then they gave her friend a see-through shirt because she was spraying it. And it was like, and you could see the bra underneath, like that's not it's vulnerable. That's
well for me it's worse in the second half of the series when like there's like the nothing sexual going on in terms of like the horror action, and there's just all these fan service shots for like no reason. Just there.
Like I feel
Did you have to shoot this shot from this angle? No. But you did. That's a choice.
This I feel is, studio passione. I really hope there was a JoJo reference in there somewhere. I was disappointed. This is Studio Passiones. You know, they made the show the way they're used to making most of their shows, which is it's not porn, barely.
I don't think it was that egregious, but
well, the thing is, the way it feels to me is they're so set in their ways they weren't able to not do it this way.
Yeah, like that's what it feels like.
To give some context on this for people who aren't familiar, because we didn't, we haven't covered any. This is the first of their shows we've covered. Passione. I'm looking at their ANN profile specifically, and there's a lot of fan service on here. They have done some non-fan service stuff. They did the most recent Spice and Wolf, for example, but also like they did, for example, so I watched just last season. They did Nuki Taishi, literal adaptation of an eroge. Political satire adaptation of an eroge, but eroge. They did interspecies reviewers. They've done the High School DxD franchise. They've done like lots of fan servicey stuff. So like this, like fan service is a lot of their wheelhouse. So like I could definitely see like, okay, yeah, this is them like, and this was early. Let's say this is earlier in their career, but that they had not done that much stuff branching out of fan service before this. So I could definitely see like, okay, this is the people you've hired for directors, for key animators, for animation production. This is the people you have on staff. This is what they're used to doing. So, yeah.
And I think there's something very unfortunate that happens when you're watching it. At least for me as a woman, my perspective was initially, okay, the main character is a high school girl. They're obviously sexualizing her. There's this one very creepy ghost at the beginning that just gropes her friend. Like, so I was like, okay, so it's gonna, like, sexual horror is gonna be part of this. That does not turn out to be the case at all. And I find that a lot of the time the show is trying to be comedic with the fact that this poor girl is terrified out of her mind and can't show that on her face, because then the ghosts will be cued into the fact that she can see them. And to me, it's not funny.
Yeah.
And combined with the predator gaze that they are using to frame these shots, the whole thing just feels like it was made by someone that hates teenage girls. But I watched the whole thing and I could see like the actual story being told was trying to be something very different, but the effect of the direction just really hit me in a negative way. Like they want me to be laughing at this girl and sexualizing this girl, and that is obviously not for me to consume. That is for a very particular type of person to consume who is not me, and I do not agree with that type of person.
The humor in it, like it's it says horror comedy. Where was the comedy?
There were a few funny bits. I did laugh at the butt buns.
Yeah, the butt buns was funny.
Okay, one repeated gag does not a comedy make.
True.
Yeah.
I think like the comedy bits I think that worked for me was the comedy bits around the character of specifically Yuria, with Yuria's comedic misunderstandings of what Miko was doing. We're like, oh, Miko's this super powerful medium, and
she just threw up a barrier in no time flat. Like no, that worked.
Not for me.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah, like comedy, like probably more than almost any other genre, is going to be subjective.
Yeah,
and I will say, I think with the sole exception of the butt bun, which was just it got the 6-year-old, well, it got the 11-year-old boy in me to giggle. But especially
it was more that it kept coming back.
Especially when it was like, oh, I really wish we could have gotten a cream fill. Right. But I was like, that's horrible. I can't. But yeah. But the humor, I think, did not land for me.
Yeah, I think the bit that said the ghost design worked. The ghosts were really creepy.
The ghosts were really creepy. And that honestly just made it more confused when they were going for like the lighthearted stuff. You're like, but this thing is looming in the background, and it's like, I don't want to look at that. I don't blame her for not wanting to look at that.
I will say they did a pretty good job of making them unnerving. I don't think they did a good job setting up why these ghosts exist. What are the rules around them?
We don't know if they ever could have hurt her physically.
There's no explanation. I feel like the writing out of the godmother took away a real good way of giving us some exposition as to how this world functions. Why some people become ghosts, why others don't.
That was so weird how that character was there and then gone, like right up front. And it's like, but you set it up like this was going to be important, and now the character's just vanished.
Like, this is based on a manga. Maybe that character comes back.
Looking at TV tropes, she does come back. That's
great, but why did you bring her into this one season if you weren't going to bring her back in this one season?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I think the show's problem, and like, this is a situation that is kind of intrinsic to more recent anime, which tend to fall more on the 12 to 13 episode side, which is how long this one was, rather than, say, the 24 to 26 episode side, or even going a full year, is like, this show has just enough time to get up to speed, where we got like our first real, like, actual kind of horror arc with the substitute teacher, Zen. And the introduction of the fox god spirit, and then it stops. And it's very clear. It's very clear the implication here is, okay, now you need to go to your local bookstore and get the collected volumes of the manga. And that, I think, is this is clearly the show done as advertisement for to get you to read the manga. And the problem is, in isolation, that doesn't work as well. Fortunately, like, the manga has been licensed for US release, I believe. But if it hadn't, then it'd be much more frustrating, I would think. I mean, it's frustrating as it is, but it'd be more so.
If the manga is the same story, but without the fan service, I actually would be interested in reading it, because I feel like there is an interesting story in there. But the way it was presented in the show, I just really did not vibe with. Although I understand there were a lot of interesting, like, horror references that just went right over my head, because I'm not up on Japanese horror.
Yeah, like, I got the recurring reference with the ghost spooky stuff television show. Like, I understand, for what I say, like, that's a thing in Japan. Like, we used to have shows like that in the United States. There was the Fact or Fiction show with Jonathan Frakes. We had unsolved mysteries, kind of unsolved mysteries. There was a fair bit of that with what was the show with Leonard Nimoy from back in the day, which was like about which got a lot into like cryptids and ghosts and that sort of thing, and UFOs. Like, we used to get those kind of shows a lot on television in the US back in the day, and we don't,
like true crime forensic files now.
Yeah,
because those are cheap to make.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Again, they're like, same thing with like those older shows. Like, it's a lot of it. If you like go watch like In Search of was the Leonard Nimoy show. With a lot of stuff with In Search of is like lots of like archival footage that they're licensing from other documentaries, plus interviewing, air quotes, experts in the field and that sort of thing. Like, the closest we get to that now is possibly like Ancient Aliens on the History Channel.
Horrible.
Yeah.
and maybe the Ghost Hunters reality shows, but even those shows, like they don't like, oh, the spooky bit is this nut that's sitting on a counter moved 5 inches.
The only one of those I enjoy is Paranormal Home Inspector, where it's a true believer and just a home inspector. It was like, you can feel a cold presence. It was like, yeah, because of the window, it's improperly sealed. It's genuinely, it's like, okay, yeah.
That sounds amazing.
It is amazing. It's the one good one, because there's just one person who's like, look at the facts, people.
They walk into a basement and the guy's like, oh god, it's so haunted, and the home inspector's like, that foundation is gonna crumble in 5 years.
No, it's literally like, every person who's moved in here has been killed since the first owner. The house is cursed. The house has black mold. The entire, it should be torn down, but at the very least, you gotta rip out every wall. Water damage is ridiculous here.
How did you share this with me? I need to see this.
Because I'm compressing an hour-long thing into like a few funny bits.
Of course you are. A rich well, that is.
Yeah. I also did like, as far as spooky bits go, the broadcast scare they did, the sort of broadcast framing scare they did in the last episode. Admittedly, with how we watched it in the US version, it was a little more telegraphed, because when anime is put up on Crunchyroll and that sort of thing, when you watch an anime on Japanese television, having watched fan subs back in the day, there's where they're taken from off air. There is a bit at the beginning where this show was the brand sponsor for this show is, or this was brought to you by our brand sponsor of blank, and they have the on-screen graphic and that sort of thing into the beginning and end of the show. It's if you watch fan subs of a certain period, or just fan subs of shows that don't get licensed, like Game Center CX or what have you, you get these little tags at both ends. But if you're watching a show on Crunchyroll, or a show that's getting its video from Crunchyroll, if they're redoing the subtitles, you don't get those. The last episode includes those bits, and includes them because there's a horror bit at the end of the show, where at beginning and end of the episode, where it futzes with that. And so on the one hand, because they did that, I knew they were going to do something there, but I wasn't sure what. But I can imagine, like, watching.
Like, why did they put that there?
Yeah,
they didn't do that for any of the others.
Yeah. However, I said if you're watching the episode live, it's like, oh yeah, or week to week, that you'd be inured to it as part of the casual, like, ambient new background of watching television in Japan, and then it f's with you that way. So, like, that was fun.
Framing things like that, yeah.
Yeah. So,
can we talk about Hana for a second?
Oh, sure.
This is Hana, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if they changed the character design from the manga or not. This girl's whole personality is joy and sunshine and rainbows. And she has an enormous chest. And she's constantly hungry and always snacking. And then towards the end of the show, we learn that it's because eating replenishes her spiritual aura or something like that.
Which is constantly being eaten by all the ghosts that are drawn to her very powerful spiritual aura.
As someone who has been heavy set their whole life, who had a really big chest before surgical intervention, I don't know how to feel about this character. Like, I feel like there's something yicky in there that I don't really want to break down, but I actually did kind of like her character and her relentless positivity.
Okay, the character and the relentless positivity are completely divorced from her large chest. Like, those things are separate. Like, she is not relentlessly positive because she is busty.
Right.
That is just something that is part of the physical design.
Given that one of the first ghosts we see who is interacting with her specifically is the gropey ghost. It kind of makes me feel like they were drawing a connection between the fact that she has a big chest and the fact that ghosts are attracted to her, which is icky. Like, I don't know.
Because that was before Miko knew about her like spiritual aura, because she can't see that.
It turns out a bunch of ghosts are attracted to her, not just gropey ones. But I don't know that
But
that
the
makes
thing is,
it.
I don't think gropey ghost wouldn't be groping her if she wasn't more modestly.
It's like gropey ghost then jumped to musty teacher, right?
Yeah, until she was undone by her perfume because of the flowers and the fact that it is alcohol based. And in Japan, alcohol is used for exorcising ghosts, which is the reason that Miko keeps spraying Hana with an alcohol-based disinfectant.
Which I didn't know when watching.
I didn't know that either. I had to look it up. I'm like, why are they doing this? It was fan service.
But at least
they tried to justify it.
Yeah.
It didn't have a point. It tried to justify it.
It had a story-related connection. Anyway, watching as guys, what did you think about this character? Like, do you think it mattered that she had a big chest? Because I think that was completely unnecessary.
Admittedly, as someone who dips my toe in fan service shows every now and then, the archetype of the busty, cheerful, energetic character is definitely a thing. And I definitely get the impression that the show, and probably for that matter the original material, were trying to play with that archetype with this character. That probably her cheerful demeanor is related to her tremendous spiritual aura and spiritual energy. And so to make you think that, oh, it's X, she's bright and sunshine and rainbows, and she's had the busty, cheerful character. But also, then we learn about her being sunshine and rainbows is connected to the spiritual aura and why she's attracting the ghosts, and thus the Miko needing to try and deal with the ghosts lurking around her best friend.
I did think their relationship was very sweet.
Yes. I will say my reaction to this character was I did like the character. I don't have a problem with busty characters, or with, women who are busty, who are characters in shows. The fact that they felt the need to sexualize it made it bad. Made it awkward, especially since she's a teenage girl.
Yep.
It's school. Like, you can have...
It also kind of felt like, they made her busty not just as a reason to do fan service, but as a way to, like, expand that fan service, because she kept asking her friend to go underwear shopping with her. And, like, it is really hard to find undergarments that fit properly when you're not a standard size. But it also just felt like, we need our characters to go underwear shopping. Thank God they didn't actually show them doing it.
Like, I think... there's a lot of things they could have done, little things they could have added in to sort of make sense of a lot of these decisions that they made. It's like, why is she constantly trying to go underwear shopping with her friend? Well, maybe she just actually needs a good bra. That's fine.
You wear them out.
Why isn't she going by herself? We've seen that she's more than willing to, travel around the city. Why is she refusing to go? It's like, is there something she can't, is there like some sort of ghost at like the one bra shop for her that, will stalk her size? It's like, put some explanations into why she doesn't like going alone to these activities. Like, I understand the, not wanting to go to
their friend.
Like, but there's a lot of things they could have done except that, like, they constantly go to the food shop because, as she says, calories don't count when you're eating with other people. Which is something I've genuinely heard in real life. I heard people say, it's like, okay, I need to eat I need you to go out and eat with me, because if I go by myself, I have to cut the calories. But if this is just a get together.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I really wanted to like this character, but
weird.
The constant sexualization just put me off her.
So, we do have a couple small arcs, I would say, within the show. The first, well, let's start out with the storyline around Miko's dad. So what do you think about that one?
I thought that
Storyline?
that was
What?
cool.
The storyline basically just kind of, I'm using that term loosely with the build up to the reveal, I guess I would say.
Yeah. I was really delighted by that one. When I realized that he was a ghost, I was like, oh, okay, all right. So there are ghosts that are not horrifying. Like,
Once again, what are the rules?
what are the rules? We don't know. Are the horrifying ones even like? Could they be redeemed or fixed or something? Like, you know?
Well, here's the thing.
Unclear.
We've seen in the case of the waving boy at the park, as soon as a spirit species acknowledges it, it becomes horrifying.
Well, that one sure did.
If she acknowledges seeing her dad, does he become horrifying? Will he try and attack
That
her?
would be deeply traumatizing.
I want rules for this. Even if they're loose ones.
Yeah.
What separates a good ghost from a bad ghost? Are there good ghosts? Are these even like actual thinking creatures? The dad kind of implies that they are.
But he could also just be repeating patterns that he did in his life.
Exactly.
We do kind of see some good ghosts because there's the cats that are around Gozuka, the guy who looks like a yakuza with all the scars.
I love that guy.
He was a yakuza.
Yeah.
Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. No one gets those tattoos and isn't yakuza. Unless they're a yakuza fanboy, which is actually worse.
Or at least former yakuza. He could be out.
He could be out. We don't know.
Yeah. That's definitely something that happens.
Just yeah, I liked that. I like that.
I did like the implication that all of his mini nasty face scars came from cats.
Normally, cat scratches heal clean. I don't know.
That depends entirely on how you're treating them.
I don't know. I had a bunch when I had cats, and they're fine.
I've gotten more than a few scars from cats, particularly when I've had cats try to jump up onto my lap when I'm wearing shorts, and particularly if they don't quite get enough momentum.
Yeah. There's a little scrabbling that happens.
Yep. And then you got to go grab a couple large band-aids.
Stabbling.
I see a little stabbing that happens.
Yeah. And then probably the big full arc we get is around Zen, the substitute teacher.
I thought that was good. I like the way they set it up with the cats so far ahead of time in the season, and then he came back, and the twists and turns in the story. I just thought that was well done.
Yeah, I think it was handled well. The fact that he's a murderer is, not touched upon.
Well, it was kind of unclear.
They never found the cat murderer. Like, the guy disappeared and they never found his body. That is, like, so non-ambiguous. It's like, he very clearly killed this man.
Could have beat him up and tell him to leave town. I don't know. I like that they left it open, actually. I don't know. And he has the blank eyes that they give you in anime when they want you to seem either non-compos mentis or completely amoral, and thought that was effective.
Yeah. Also liked I liked the setup also with the whole Fox God storyline, which they have not resolved yet. And doing some reading and checking that in the manga, that's like the storyline after this is them kind of resolving that. But I liked the setup of going to the shrine, seemingly getting the favor of the Fox God spirit, and then at the end of the episode, presumably has a sequel hook, I would guess, if they're hoping either to hook you into reading the manga or to set up if they got a second season down the road. Which, considering when this aired, it's entirely possible that in fact, yes, we could act like this was came out 2020, 2021, we could theoretically absolutely get like a second season like next year with how these things go in the anime industry, like next year, the year after. Setting up that this fox god spirit that you thought was benevolent and they had like a nice working relationship where it want to help you the 3 times. No.
Don't think anyone thought it was benevolent.
Well, that was my favorite design, actually, was the fox god spirit. The way it had recognizable fox elements and recognizable, shrine god elements, and then it started morphing into something creepier in a really interesting way. I thought that was very cool. And I like the little shrine maiden ones too. They were neat. They were just the right amount of unsettling.
I did have a bit of a humorous moment where it turned out to be a dream bit with her bringing the sweets to the fox god spirit and it reacting badly, and my brain going, no, it's a fox god, it's supposed to be fried tofu.
She just keeps putting more sweets on and they're just unamused. I'm sorry for cheaping out on the sweets. Yeah, man. So real mixed bag, this one. And it was infuriating to me in that way that shows are infuriating when you see exactly what could have been done better. And then you have that, gosh darn it, I could have done better than, and you're like, you see what went wrong. But everyone's tastes are individual, so yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's definitely something where if the manga became available for me to easily read, I might go back and read the manga and read more of it. The same way that through the Shonen Jump app, I'm reading the Dark Gathering manga as it's become available. Although I'd say I definitely like Dark Gathering more. I think Dark Gathering balances horror and humor better.
Agree.
Genuinely, I think this show would be much, much better if it is revealed that it is a spinoff of Bleach, and that this area does not have a Soul Reaper. Because it would go into that ghosts who are not collected and sent to the afterlife become monsters. It would go really well. I feel like it could be. I feel like it would be great.
Your brain's like, let's just link these right up.
That's how fanon works, yeah. I think it would be a very easy crossover. Because we know there are spiritually powerful humans in Bleach. We know there are ghosts that are, even if they start out as good ghosts, over time they will become evil because they have been prevented from passing on. There are other mechanisms. Yeah. That's my feeling.
Okay.
That is an appropriate response, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's watched a bit of Bleach, I stopped at once it hit the second Bound arc, not Bound arc, but the second filler arc. I was like, my filler arc. I mean, the ones when after they introduced the cute mascot characters, like all the.
Okay, well, don't get me wrong. I never watched Bleach. I read it.
Okay.
And even then, it was bullshit power progression.
Okay.
It was like, oh no! Ichigo has sacrificed all of his power in order to defeat this enemy. Well, I guess that's good. Oh, there's another arc. Look, Ichigo has a new bullshit power.
Actually, you know what? Power progression, when you relate it back to Mieruko-Chan, is part of what intrigues me about this show. Because Mieruko can see ghosts, but she never evidences any, spiritual powers. Like, she gets the fox spirits to kill other spirits for her, And Hana has an aura, but we don't know like if she can do anything with that. And Yuri is the only one who seems to think like
equates one with the other.
She can do powerful things with her gift, but she never evidences anything either. So it's like, are these characters literally powerless in the face of these spirits?
Well, that's the way it seems to be, because the godmother gave Miko that those prayer beads. There weren't 108 of them. That's why it failed.
Prayer beads.
And she said that she's, spent like 20 years putting spiritual energy into it, and it immediately breaks. So I think that's a pretty good implication that there's nothing these people can do.
And it's weird, right? Because the show comes close a couple of times to saying that she can influence these spirits or get them what they need. And then at the end, she has that confrontation moment with Zen's mother's spirit where she says, you need to leave him alone. And you're just always left wondering, like, is she going to come into some kind of power through this, or is she just going to keep muddling through the way any of us would? And I honestly don't know which would be more interesting.
I think narratively, if it's just teenage girl deals with horrifying things every day, it's just, that's life.
It's all a metaphor now.
Where's the story here?
Yeah. So this is one of the shows, I guess, where I came into it mostly cold, and we came to it pretty much cold. And we came away with it had problems.
Mixed feelings.
Yeah, for mixed feelings. We didn't like. I think if we were to do a ranking of this compared to shows we previously watched, it's definitely better than the oh gosh,
Senko-san?
Yeah, definitely better than Senko-san.